All right, guys, just want to welcome back to Everything College Football Podcast. I'll be doing my preview and prediction for the Music City Bowl between Iowa and Missouri going down in Nashville Monday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. 40.5 is the total. 2.5-point favorites are the Tigers. Getting things started with the Iowa offense. It was a pretty good unit this year. Iowa was no longer the unit of the past where they were putting up, 15, 17 points per game the last two seasons, up to 4 touchdowns, 28 points per contest. Good year from Iowa's offense, and it allowed them to really just blow out opponents in conference play. Numerous, 20-plus point victories. This was a tough team to slow down, and of course against tougher opponents, they still had those issues. Ohio State, they didn't do nothing in that game. Shockingly, did not do much against Michigan State and then struggled against UCLA as well. So the consistency wasn't always there throughout the year, but this was an offense that allowed them to win 8 games and get here to a bowl game with ease. And a big reason for that was Caleb Johnson, who was opted out of this game. That's going to cause significant issues for them. 1,500-plus yards, 21 touchdowns. Numerous times he bailed them out with long 50, 60, 70-yard runs. This guy was phenomenal for them. Last 2 out of 3 games, though, he was held to under 50 yards each, and this offense was able to only generate 17 and 13 points each against UCLA and Nebraska. And then against Maryland, he had a good game in between there as well. But it seems like it's correlated to them not being able to run the ball very well, or when they lose these games. He was held to only 98 rushing against Michigan State, and he had like a 70-yard touchdown in that game too. So over the other carries, he did absolutely nothing. So this offensive line, they've been good this year. They seem to get outpowered, though, at times, and that causes the whole offense to stumble. Kind of like old school Iowa, so not much of a shocker. Right tackle Jennings Dunker, questionable, I think. He missed the last few games of an injury. That's the only thing to really monitor on this offense. Outside of that, should be fully healthy. That includes getting back Brendan Sullivan at quarterback. This is a guy I thought was pretty solid. McNamara, of course, suffered an injury and transferred again. 144 yards rushing, 4 TDs for Sullivan, the Northwestern transfer. 3 straight games for him with a rushing touchdown before he got injured and didn't play the last 2. But this guy was solid for them. He didn't really do much in terms of throwing the football. 24-35, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Only had 1 game of 100-plus yards against UCLA. Had some big plays in that one. Also had 2 picks, though. So inconsistencies across the board. This is a team that ran the ball very well this year, but they were horrendous. 131st nationally throwing the football. Only 7 yards more per game than Navy throwing the ball. So that shows you how terrible they really are. And that's not really going to be something I think that's going to work in this game either. It's just not been the MO this year. Jacob Gill's been a reliable pass catcher. Luke Lachey's a nice tight end. Zach Orworth as well. Reese Vanderzee at times. He's got 3 touchdowns and 14 receptions whenever he was healthy. Didn't play over the last month, so I don't know if he'll play. This is just not a passing attack that's going to really do anything I wouldn't expect, especially going up against a defense that's gotten better as the seasons went on. 185 yards per game allowed through the air, one of the better marks in the country. Pretty good unit for Missouri. Drayden Norwood, Toriano Pride, 2 solid corners. I think Pride's certainly vulnerable. Norwood's more of a playmaker for them. Dalen Carnell, Joseph Charleston, a safety. Marvin Burks has been great. So they got some good DBs. I don't expect them to be, hammered too hard in this game. I think this will be a good opportunity, though, for Missouri. And in terms of running the football, Iowa, you're going to have to do it without Caleb Johnson. Kamari Moulton, 377 and 2 touchdowns as a backup. Jason Patterson, those 2 will likely be the ones splitting touches. Without Johnson, he's just a special player. That's the reason why he's opting out. He should be drafted come April, fairly well. That's all it's really been, an offensive line that was more physical, and they were able to overpower most of their opponents, and Johnson making special plays. No passing game and a lack of ability in the backfield. It's going to have to be typical Iowa team to score. They're going to have to win with special teams, field position, and defense forcing turnovers, and an occasional big play you would hope in the passing game, but it's unlikely to happen in this one. The Missouri defense, though, this year, they've been lackluster against tougher opponents, but for the most part against mid-level defenses, I think they've done well. Got hammered bad against A&M and Alabama. South Carolina hung 34 points on them, that is. They did quite well against the run, though, over the back half of the year, playing some respectable attacks, and they weren't really giving up too much. So this is a defense that's been all right, not that great altogether, though, but Johnny Walker, Chris McClellan, Zion Young, a nice trio that will be playing up front. Tristan Newsome as well. Looks like linebacker Chuck Hicks, he'll be opting out of this game. That's pretty much it for this defense, though. Not many guys in the portal, not many guys that are going to be opting out either. So it's going to be full hands on deck for the Missouri defense. Moving to the other side of the ball, Iowa, phenomenal defense for them taking on a Missouri offense. They'll be without Luther Burden. Looks like Theo Weiss will be playing, though. He was their top pass catcher this year. Obviously, injuries really ravaged this unit throughout the season, especially when Brady Cook went down. It just completely hurt any upside this team had of accomplishing a lot this year. Weiss, though, 809 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's big for them. Mookie Cooper, he's out. He missed the last 6 games due to injury. Brett Norfleet as well at tight ends out due to surgery. So it's going to be a pretty dampened receiving group. Marquise Johnson, Joshua Manning, both under 20 receptions this year, will be the next ones in line. So it's really hard to expect much from this passing attack, but I think Brady Cook, this is a guy who's played plenty of football at this point, has played some good defenses. He's a good player as a runner. He's obviously going to have to use his legs a lot in this one. When he's throwing the football, 204 yards a game, 9 touchdowns, only 2 picks. And again, throughout the year, he was really injured. Only ended up missing 1 game, but they were certainly limited to what they could do. Against Alabama, only 30 yards. I mean, it was just a tough unit all around. They had a lot of people out in that one. Defense, of course, was getting hammered. The last 3 games of the year, though, I thought the passing attack had much more efficiency, some better effectiveness, and then we saw that in the beginning of the year as well against some pretty weak opponents. For the most part, though, it's been a slightly balanced unit. It's really been about the run game, puts up 171 yards per game. I love the duo here of Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll. Combined 15 touchdowns, 804 yards for Noel. Carroll has 578. These guys are very efficient. Jamal Roberts hasn't even been a bad number 3 for them either. And of course, I alluded to Cook and what his legs will bring to the table. I think this is a good offensive line for Missouri. I think they're going to have a tough matchup, of course, against Iowa. Marcus Bryant, Caden Green, a phenomenal left side they have there. Connor Tolson, I think he went down at some point. I'll have to check his injury status. I know that, he's out for the year. So that's going to be a starter they're missing there for the most part. They should be straight on this offensive line. Right tackle Amar Mabu, though, he'll be opting out for this one. So it's not going to be a complete unit for them, but they should do well enough in this matchup going up against the defense. They was good this year. I wouldn't call them as great as they were in the past. 17 points per game, though, still no slouch. Less than 5 yards per play, a phenomenal number. And, of course, 16th in yards per game. So still a phenomenally elite unit. Against the run, though, they've had their issues throughout the year. I think this will be the biggest matchup. They shockingly got torched against UCLA, 200-plus yards in that one. Michigan State also ran the ball very well, and they couldn't slow them down. And then Ohio State, that is, had 200-plus. So 3 games this year of 200 yards allowed against 2 opponents that shouldn't have happened against. Ohio State, no slouch there, but the other 2 is kind of shocking. Ethan Herkett, he's a phenomenal player. Aaron Graves, Yaya Black, some phenomenal players up front. Deontay Craig, it's a nice physical defensive line. They're productive as always. A lot of veteran leadership as well. 27 sacks as a team. Herkett leading the way with 6.5 of those. In the middle, you have 2 outstanding linebackers, Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson. Higgins, 118 tackles, 4 picks, 5 pass breakups. He's so good in coverage. The disguises and his football IQ are just so good, and I think there's going to be opportunities for him to slide into those pass windows and create for his defense. One thing they do is when this defense is able to back opponents up and they're facing their own goal line due to great punting and whatnot, the field position game favors this defense. Whenever they have teams back up inside their own 5, they create turnovers almost every single time, it seems. Or they do something on a punt return to set up a short field, or they just flat out score after that. So this defense, they do great work when they back up their opponents, and that might be a spot where Missouri could struggle for the most part. Without Burden, obviously that's going to be big. Offensive line has some guys out, but it's still going to be a veteran player in Brady Cook. 2 nice senior running backs. Theo Weiss should make some plays because Jamari Harris, their top corner, he will be out. Still a good defense for them. Quinn Schlup, Sebastian Castro looks like he's going to play, so you're still going to have nice defenders on the back end. Deshaun Lee, though, is going to be stepping into that number 1 corner role, and he might get tagged a little bit more than you would probably like. So I think this is a good matchup for Iowa, as always, but I think Missouri, they're probably liking their chances a little bit more because they can run the ball, and I think Brady Cook, with his legs and his decision-making, will be able to extend drives and be able to keep the ball. So I like what Missouri can probably accomplish in this matchup. Leading the final thoughts on the prediction. Missouri being 2.5-point favorites, I think it should be more. I just don't see how Iowa's going to be able to do anything on offense. The one guy they had, he's gone. So the running backs are going to have to show they can be creative and keep possessions alive, stay ahead of the sticks. And Sullivan, he can run the ball a lot. Maybe that's the approach. They just go for run-heavy offense with Sullivan getting the ball, 10, 15, 20 times maybe. I just don't really think that's probably going to be in the bag. They can't throw the ball at all. And I think Missouri, it's going to be tough to score against this Iowa defense. It always is. But as long as you protect the football and you don't make mistakes and you don't let the field position advantage go too far in the favor of Iowa, this is not a hard team to beat. As long as you can play like that for at least 2 quarters, you'll start to wear down this defense if they're on the field for too long. I think that's what Missouri will do. They'll run the ball well. Some misdirection will be in store. Throwing the ball into the flat, just staying ahead of the sticks for Missouri, and I think they'll get the job done by double figures. 2.5, they should cover this one with ease, and I think the total will hit as well, of 40.5. That's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.